Paul Kagame of Rwanda, 1994, the United Nations turned away the Rwandese within 100 days. Anything between 800,000 and 1 million Tutsis and moderate Hutus were killed even in churches. Then there came a tall, lanky man, Paul Kagame, and his comrades in arms. I was there 2 days ago, and one of the best drives out of any airport in the world is to be found in Kigali, in Rwanda. And you can see, so that those who thought that Africans cannot do it, our color is innocent. The Negroid, the dark color is innocent. It is not in our DNA.
It is not in our DNA. Millions of Rwandans lost their lives while their so-called colonizers stood aside and watched them unalive themselves. Let's watch this video together.
No. What happens is that there are some within our ranks who are errant, who must be punished. One can go on and on, but even my own good friend Yoweri Kaguta Museveni found a dilapidated Uganda. And even if you say that Yoweri has now stayed a little longer, there is a sense in which history will remember him fondly. One can go on and on, but one must also remember that lunch must be served. And if one remembers that lunch must be served, one must also remember that there is the law of diminishing returns. And one must also remember that one must now grow to their conclusion, even as they are talking about a call for political hygiene. So I'm submitting to us this morning that Africa can be great and Africa must be great.
Africa must be great.
But Africa will only be great if we Africans do that which is good and right.
Yeah.
The great Indian nationalist Chakravarti Rajagopalachari said that when politics stumbles, the country pays.
The country pays.
So the first thing that we must do is to introduce hygiene in our politics. And now that I'm in Tanzania, the first thing that we must do is to magulify our politics. I know that there is a Kiswahili saying, mgema kisifiwa tembo litia maji, and I'm conscious that one of the names of President Magufuli is Pombe. But I have no doubt that President Magufuli will remain on the right course. As you say here in Tanzania, atabaki kwenye njia kuu hata chepua. I'm suggesting to us that we introduce hygiene in our politics, which means, and Mzee Warieba will remember when we were talking about the Constitution, Africans must begin looking at their Constitution, and they must be constitutions which address the African environment. The subject that has preoccupied us in the last few days is one that is as topical as it is relevant. The rise or fall of Africa on account of the African politician. And in order to do justice to that subject and to remain faithful to my chosen subject, which is a call for hygiene in African politics, there is a sense in which one must take a historical journey, if only to appreciate the factors that animated Africans to seek to regain their independence from the colonial masters. There is a sense, therefore, in which these individuals started recognizing that having been enslaved, having been colonized, we now had to liberate ourselves. And the agitation started, and Kwame Nkrumah and his Ghana acquired independence in 1957. And I still can hear Kwame Nkrumah through the vicissitudes of time saying in Accra, Ghana, that Ghana is free and will never be colonized again. But the freedom of Ghana means nothing if the rest of Africa is not free. I can hear Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere saying that he's prepared to delay the independence of Tanganyika so that Tanganyika, Kenya, Uganda would become independent at one time. Mwalimu could see the future with the exactitude of a Jewish prophet. Jomo Kenyatta and Obote could not. And therefore, we gained independence as separate states, and the story will be told shortly. So what do we see? The agitation, the demand by the people that we must be decolonized. And why is it that we were asking that we must be decolonized? Why is it that we were demanding that we must regain our independence? Because throughout the ages, it was always the divine plan that men must be masters of their destiny. And when we gained our independence, the leaders of the day were eloquent as they were clear that the reason why we were asking to be independent is because we wanted to take charge of our affairs.
Our destiny.
We wanted to be the governors. We wanted to have our young men and women acquire education. We wanted to control the production of our food through agriculture.
Exactly.
We wanted to build our infrastructure. We wanted to improve the quality of the lives of our people by improving their health. We wanted to eliminate poverty. We were clear on what we wanted, and this message was as clear in West Africa as it was clear in East Africa, as it was clear in Central Africa, as it was clear in Northern Africa. So that if you listen to Kwame Nkrumah, it's as if you'd listen to Agostino Neto. And if you listen to Neto, it's as if you'd listen to Samora Moses Machel. And if you listen to Ahmed Ben Bella in the Maghreb, it's as if you'd listen to Patrice Emery Lumumba. There is a sense in which there was unanimity that this was the only way, and we attained independence. And I remember so very vividly in 1957 in Casablanca, Morocco, was it in 1906, when the then 8 independent African countries met on the Osagia for Kwame Nkrumah, was clear that we must ensure that everybody else regains their independence, and that we must remember that the colonial master is not asleep, and that if we don't unite, he'll come under other guises through the neo-colonial project. But they listened to Kwame Nkrumah not. And even before they assembled in 1963, in the month of May in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, no sooner had countries started attaining independence than the neo-colonial project started taking root. And in 1960, the first coup d'etat and assassination took place in Togo when Sylvanus Olympio was eliminated. Right. 1 year later, Patrice Emery Lumumba was eliminated. So that in 1963, in the month of May, when 32 heads of states and government assembled in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, there were several speeches, but 3 speeches stand out. Kwame Nkrumah's speech, Mwalimu Kambarage Nyerere's speech, and Emperor Haile Selassie's speech. Haile Selassie was the host, and in his own inimitable style, he reminded the congregation who are present in Africa Hall in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, that that was a momentous occasion, and that the long-term health of Africa not only required but demanded that Africa must pull in the same direction, Haile Selassie said. And Mwalimu took the baton from Haile Selassie and repeated the same words, celebrating the fact that we were independent and we had the opportunity of determining our affairs. But the greatest of the speeches was that of the Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah had a sense of urgency which everybody else did not have. He said, not in so many words, but in effect, that if we want to immunize ourselves from the diabolical machinations of the erstwhile colonial master, now turned neo-colonizer, we have to move here as one Africa, with the United States of Africa, with one army, with one currency, with one central bank, and with one nation. But they listened to him not.
They never listened.
They had started getting used to the trappings of power. So what they came out with on that day in the month of May 1963 was a weak organization of African unity, the OAU, which many commentators were quick to describe in many ways and many times as the toothless bulldog. It was never a dog. It did not have teeth, but the effect of it is that it did not do very much. Some say it was a talking shop. Mzee Warioba, who was then active in political life and in other sectors, will attest to that. Yet later, we were to create another body, the African Union, and we'll have something to say about that. So we come out of Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in 1963, clear as to what we want to do. The African politician begins to emerge. We have them in different parts, but they begin to show characters that are totally inimical to our expectations. You of the Swahili say, maskini akipata matako huliambwata. Maskini walipata matako zililiambwata. They started getting used to the trappings of power. And we started having countries which we thought would liberate us. And I'm talking about the hygiene of the politics. It started disappearing. Many of these individuals now thought that they were demigods, suffering from what I call the Messiah complex, thinking that they had been brought to Africa to liberate her, and that they suffered from two major diseases. One of them is the martyr syndrome, and the other one is the Messiah complex. They think that their countries owed them.
Africans started producing leaders that they couldn't even recognize. They couldn't even recognize their own leaders after electing them. Messiah complex. Give an innocent man power and you will see how power intoxicates. Give an innocent man power and you will see how power intoxicates. Some Africans, some African leaders are the problems we are facing. Let's be realistic. Aside the effect of foreign policies, some African leaders are the problems we are facing. Corruption, looting. They are very egocentric. We elect leaders, we know them, but once they get elected, once we put them in power, we can't even recognize the innocent man we elected. That is one of the problems. And if we are extricating Africans from mental slavery, we have to start by holding our leaders accountable. We have to start by holding our leaders accountable. They are part of our problems in Africa, and we can't deny that. We won't always blame the whites, because the people that gives these whites the opportunity to neo-colonize us are our leaders. And strangely, they were innocent people. They wanted the good of Africa. They wanted the betterment of Africa. But once elected into office, they turned to monsters, aliens. And we, the citizens, we, the Africans, can't even recognize our own leaders. It's high time we vote. We put people that we can hold accountable. It's high time we put people that we can recognize even after they are elected in power. That is one of the ways we can liberate ourselves. That is one of the ways we can unite and fight as one and take Africa to the next level. Let the conversation continue in the comments. What do you actually think about this speech? Do you actually believe that the problems we are facing in Africa are not just the Westerners, are not just the whites, but African leaders themselves? Or do you think that they've been trapped in a system where they don't even have a say or a choice? Let's have this conversation in the comments. I'll be going through the comments and I'll be replying your comments. Thank you.